Hey friends, today I'm going to go over the Adventure Encounter and Monster Design Tools version 2.2. I'm just releasing this today to everybody on the Patreon. So this is really a video meant for those folks and for you. If you want to join the Patreon, please do, so that you know exactly what's in the latest functionality here. I'm going to go over the Excel spreadsheet and what it covers and all of the changes that it has in this new version. Here we go. So here we are in the welcome screen that just talks through all of the features in each of the tabs. And you'll see these colored bands. Each of those corresponds to a colored tab on the worksheet. So you can just barely see it along the bottom of the screen in this shot. But there's, like a green and then a blue and then red. So those are worksheets that I'm going to be clicking on as I go through the different screens. And this information, first worksheet, just kind of talks you through what all of them do. If there's work that's planned, kind of just features, like for example, for the Adventure and Encounter Designer, the idea that if you see a field in green, that's a spot where you put in information. If you see something that has like a red triangle, it's a comment, right? Things like that. And it walks you through the process. So this worksheet, each of the worksheets that are in this spreadsheet is defined. There are links to various things. If there's additional information or websites, then you can click on those to follow it. And work that is planned or recently added is noted there. And let's just jump right into the Adventure Encounter design tool. This is what I use all the time. And all of these tools, if you're new to this is a collection of tools that I use to design. And I use it both in my home game and I use it for published works because I like to know what the rules are and then I can break them. So this is designed really using the rules of the game. You can always homebrew it or adapt these, but this is going to show you how to do things officially. Anything in here that isn't by the rules will be described, and in fact, in the Encounter Designer, you won't find anything like that. It is absolutely by the book in terms of all of the rules that it's following. Again, with that idea that you may be doing official work or work that's going to be used sort of officially, even if you're doing third-party work, you want it to be just like 2024 D&D or 2014 D&D. For the Adventure Designer, we have the ability to design your encounters in either 2024 or 2014. If you have the previous update, this has not changed since then. So it's still the same concept. You're going to enter your monsters and their CRs, and it's going to calculate what that challenge is like. So if I put, 8 Bugbear Warriors here, that exceeds the maximum expected for a level 1 party. And we've got our characters here so that we can, decide, it's going to be a level 6 encounter. And now, 4 bugbears is still a low challenge and 8 is still low. And we'd have to go to, 22 or something like that to get to a moderate challenge, right? So this is using the rules to figure that all out. And you have the ability to do a whole bunch of different encounters here. So you can cover, a whole adventure or some mini campaign by filling those all out. You can also, by the way, copy this worksheet. So if you want to make multiples to cover segments of your campaign, you can do that. It's totally fine. This spreadsheet, as before, again, hasn't changed, but it also provides you things like a reference point of the adventuring day experience points that are expected. This is using 2014 values. And here's a case where I say, hey, 2024 doesn't actually use these rules, but it says there is no max per day, or at least doesn't describe what it might be, but it can be a nice reference point to see that, so I've added that here. The level up XP here, this is the XP gain needed to reach the next level, so they need 9,000 experience points each, and if you're not amassing that, which currently we're very far away from it, then you're not going to do that. You need to have 54,000 total XP to get that. It also shows you, this is the cell summing up all of the encounters so you can see what's the total across all the different encounters per PC. And so that 200's being averaged out by the party, and so you get that there. You can also see a summary of all the different difficulties of the encounters. So if we had 10 here, you'd see all of them filled out. Now we just have this one that's a low challenge. But if I did something like, say, 2 CR1 blah monsters, let's see, I don't know what they are. Let's see, they're Minotaurs. I don't remember Minotaurs are CR1 or 2. I'm going to guess 2. You can look it up later. But now you can see, it adds this here and everything levels up accordingly. And if it was, 10 of these, Then it becomes a moderate challenge, and you see all of our XP starts going up. This has not become green, so we know we have not leveled up yet, and so on. You see the average here. Going a little bit to the side here. Here we get into a couple of reference points. Something I like is to know the skill bonuses that are expected at this level of play. So currently on level 6 characters, here it shows me what I can expect for proficient PC, for somebody who is proficient, but it's not their primary attribute, or it is, and if they have expertise. It shows you that real difference there that you can find between different characters, right? Of how good they might be at a skill. And of course, someone might always be not proficient and not have anything, so they can just be +0. But it shows you that breadth of what's possible. I love that a lot for designing encounters and thinking through what the DC should be of various challenges, whether that's attainable for people in the party, right? I think most people should be able to climb a rock wall that they need to do to get to like something important in the middle of a combat. Well, they're going to have to do a check to do that. So this tells me what that chance is they'll do that. The total gold that we've gained, and I filled out a few things here so it sums up. So you can see that those summaries carrying across from all the different encounters where that was populated. And then your gold. So here I've put in a couple of example magic items. I think just those two. So these two example magic items, we see one common, one uncommon. And we can see here's what expected that you should start with at level 6, and then the expected amount by rarity that you're going to get over time. So that's a handy way to kind of track what you've given out versus what you could give based on the Xanathar's Guide to Everything book, which actually is the basis for 2024 as well. So this is still a handy way, even if they don't quite split it up this way in the new rules. This is a handy way to reference back to that. Really, so that's basically it. You've got a bunch here you can do, and in the 2014 version as well. So if you wanted to create a 2014 example, for some reason you're playing 2014, or you want to have something that's, compare it to see how backwards compatible it is, then you can add your encounters here, and you can see that as well. Again, some pieces have been populated, so everything comes across. This is all for level 1 PCs, so you see all the data conforms to that. In this case, we can see that for these level 1 PCs, the amount of XP that's being added up from all these different encounters is actually more than they need to level up. So the whole party will gain a level at the end of all of these encounters that have populated. Probably because I have thousands and thousands here in a deadly encounter. Yeah, that's why. So you can see those red dragons and fire giants would surely level up those level 1s. But okay, so they shouldn't really be level 1. If they were level, I don't know, 10 or something like that, then maybe they would be able to take on some of these threats a little better. Nope, still deadly, but you get the idea of what this is doing and telling you. And level 14, they're not leveling now, even if they might die. All right, so those are the two tabs that are used for designing encounters and campaigns. I've been using this for years. Love it, love it, love it. What I also did was pull together a collection of different rules that I need to reference all the time. This is sort of my DM screen / designer screen that I go to. I'm creating challenges that are going to happen during the combat. Hey, what are those list of skills? Well, here they are, and what attributes they tie to, so I can create a diversity of challenges. And what are the recommended DCs, all the different toolkits, conditions, time and around, tracking DCs, notes on design, the different schools of magic, underwater combat, which has changed a bit in 2024, so that's been updated, jumping, counterspelling, all those different things are here. And so you'll find this all, I just find this to be a useful reference point when I'm designing adventures to think through all these standard rules that are in the SRD. Trap rules as well. So here we have the 2024 rules. It's a very small table of at each level of play, or the level bands of play, what you expect traps to do, whether they're nuisance or deadly. It's more complicated in 2014, so you can compare to those here, and just some damage expressions for common damage types of traps, so you can think through, if it is 12d10, that's 66 points of damage that you'd expect to have as your average. Moving over to monsters, there are a number of things here for monsters, starting with the updated monster statistics tables. I use these a lot when I'm creating a monster. If you have seen the 2014 DMG, this first table here is all about that. So you can see if it's a CR2 monster, what it should look like, the proficiency bonus, armor class, range of hit points, and so on. And it's important to know, and there's guidance here in this document that talks about it, but when you're creating a monster, you might decide to have hit points that are low. It's a CR2 monster, but it has CR1 hit points, but maybe it hits like a CR3 creature, right? That plus and minus, there are official rules for it, but in general, going up and down the table cancels itself out. You can see the 2014 DMG and my guidance here. But in general, that's what happens. So it's not like you just have to go across the line. But having this line is very useful as a reference. I also use it when I'm running monsters to see whether these are going to be effective. If you've seen my monster design videos, the 2014 DMG is actually pretty good for estimating what 2024 monsters should be like. But let's take a look at those tables. Here they are right next to them, so you can compare and contrast, for those CR2 monsters, what they look like, how the hit points have changed. So the average was a little higher, it's a little lower here. The attack bonus has changed a bit, right? Just on averages. We only have but so many monsters for 2024. As we have more, this will get a little more refined, but here's what we have with the available data. And you can see that if you designed a monster in this particular way, you would be hitting the specs of the published monster manual monsters, which is what created this data, as I described in those videos. And you also have, moving here to the right, more reference points, the Forge of Foes recommended monster statistics. These are based on years of seeing how 5th edition plays. So it's an excellent target for your goal as well for design. And so you can see here examples of different types of monsters at these CRs, and for each CR, what the recommendation is. So CR6, which could be a mage or a Medusa or a Wyvern. Here are the kinds of things you would expect. You might be 11th level PCs that are the equivalent of this. And you have an AC of around 15, hit points of around 112, and so on. So again, you could just use this right here, put this on your DM screen, and just invent monsters, right? It's a being of pure fire, like a fire elemental, but it does this other thing, and it's CR12, so here's what it should be stat-wise, right? We also have the blog of holding analysis of all of the 2024 monsters that just came out this week. So I've added this here to show what Paul at Blog of Holding put together here as his averages. So you can look at those as well. And the Blog of Holding from 2014 as well, which was based on published monsters in the Monster Manual for 2014, Volos, and Mordenkainen's. Soon to be added is Tom Dunn's analysis of Break Down the Monsters, which should be start coming out this next week. So I'm excited about that. So I will update that once I have it. If you scroll down here, you then see a whole bunch of things that I just find useful when I'm making monsters. Things like, based on hit dice and hit die, averaging out my hit points. So this is calculated based on whatever I populate here. So I can say, it's 6 hit dice, and it tells me what the average hit points should be. If you've designed monsters, this is kind of a really confusing looping thing, hard to adjust. This does it for you. Same thing with average damage calculator. You can say how many dice and what die size it is. And then the modifier, and here's your average damage calculation, which is very useful for making monsters to just quickly spit that out. Monster types, various things from Mike Merles or Mike Shea or any number of people. Tom Christie that I've put together is important to me. Thinking what the average hit points for a PC will be as an estimate, the average damage output of a PC across different levels of play, how many creatures you might get in an area of effect, and all kinds of other things. What are the list of SRD 2014 creatures that fly? Just as I find things I need for design, I throw them in here, and so this will keep getting better over time. Next tab is the Monster Designer. This is based on 2014, but it will create monsters that work just fine with 2024. As I said, the 2024 design seems to really be just trying to be more consistent at hitting the 2014 DMG guidelines, with a few exceptions to that. In general, it might be that AC is a little bit higher, and it might be that the damage at high CRs is a little bit above the 2014 numbers. But in general, using this will still produce a pretty darn good monster. Maybe down the road, 5th edition Wizards of the Coast will give us official rules. Until then, this is pretty good. And you can use this to make your own monsters. As you start populating things in green, it will start to generate what your monster looks like, and it talks through and reminds you of all the steps of monster creation. So it's also a kind of guide, and it just kind of puts a very simple stat block together at the end. It's not perfect, but running through this will really be quite helpful, and it's what I use when I'm designing monsters. All right, next is magic items. I have a video on this. If you haven't seen it, check it out. All about how magic items and treasure work in 2024. 2014 is below this. So how many items are given out per level? What's in a random horde? Corrected because it's a typo in the DMG. 2024. The 2024 gold per level that you expect to have. Crafting information here as a reference point. And then the 2014. In red are things that have changed in the 2024 design. So you can kind of compare against that. And then just some general guidance on creating monsters as well, which is still helpful today for designing magic items. So even if you're doing 2024 magic items, that can be helpful when you're crafting your own. Bastions, I have a whole video on the Bastion subject, and I use that in that video. This is the list of facilities and what they can create and how much gold they generate. And I should say, for all of these, you cannot just use my spreadsheet. I'm very careful about that. You must buy the books to make use of this information in all these. That's the point. I want you to support the D&D game. Please do. Please buy all the books. But with those books in hand, this will make the task easier of thinking through what the options are that characters have for creating bastions and thinking through things like, hey, how much gold are they going to be generating all the time? And should I maybe change my approach? If I'm going to customize it, it's because I'll understand the math of this and all of the options they have. Also things like, can you have more than one of a building? If it's a barracks, yes. If it's a garden, yes. If it's a storehouse, no. You can only have one. That's it. No matter how many characters, no matter how many buildings they can build, only one. But when you get to other things like stables, they may be worth leveling. And so all of these things can be very interesting to look at. Lots of rules and notes on the side showing you how to calculate what the best thing is to craft at every level, which I used for the math. The marks of prestige rules, which can be a nice way to alter the Bastion rules to maybe have some initial costs up front to make things, a little more skin in the game for the characters to pony up some money or owe some money so that they can take all that money they're earning and pay off the debt. You can find that here. Maximum gold, comparison of how much gold is gained in the game itself and bastions. All of this I go over in my video, but that's all here. New to this spreadsheet. So far new, we've talked about the monster statistics have been heavily revised. Also the crafting section. This whole worksheet is new, but I went over it in a video on crafting. So this tells you all of the information you need to know as a quick reference of how to craft mundane items, potions and scrolls, and magic items of all rarity types, and what you can expect to spend, how to calculate that. In fact, every normal item is spec'd out for what it takes to create it. And then all the information on crafting magic items of different kinds. So that is all found here so that you can make use of it. NPCs has also been adjusted. I found this always useful because in adventures, when I'm writing adventures or creating source book material, a lot of times you want to create an NPC and then you go, hey, the player's hand or the monster manual has this list of NPCs. I got to look at those to see what already has a stat. Otherwise, I have to just make something up, like use the stats of a Medusa, but it doesn't petrify, right? So easier is to just know what all the NPC options are and start there for any humanoid-like monster kind of person in a town, that kind of thing, right? So I have this list, and you can sort it in lots of ways. I think right now it's sorted by CR. And what I've done is added the 2024 name. So you'll see, for example, the pirate only comes in the 2024 monster manual. Tortle is in Mordenkainen. The Apprentice Wizard appears in Volo's Guide to Monsters. Some monsters are only in the 2024 MM, and some are in both. So you will see that cross-referenced here. Some monsters are substitutes, where we have them appearing in both books under a new name. You will find that those, for example, Cultist Fanatic is just kind of a rename of Cult Fanatic. These are usually pretty good. Every now and then you have something that is kind of really a different stat block, but that's supposed to be the equivalency, but you may find the stat block has changed enough. It doesn't affect the NPC types too much. It's more for things like lizard folk or something like that, where Dwergar, those monsters don't perfectly translate. The translations for NPCs is pretty good in the monster manual. So you will find this useful if you're looking for, hey, you know, I need something for the characters to pose that's this humanoid type, and it's a, 1/8 CR. Well, here are your options, right? It's going to be these right here, and you can choose which one applies the most. And maybe you need a boss. So you go, okay, well, I need, a CR2 thing. What are my CR2 options? Oh, it's these guys, right? So maybe I'll use a bandit captain, or I'll use the berserker, but, reskin it slightly. So I find this to be super useful. I use it all the time. You'll also find the page numbers for both monster manuals here, which is super, super useful. There is one more tab, which is for monsters, and it just kind of provides some quick abbreviated information. I'm going to be updating that once the SRD is out for 2024, so that I have a list of SRD monsters that I can reference more easily. So that's it. I hope that you find this super useful. Again, it's my go-to, so I wanted to make sure that folks get it, but I also want to try to cover all the time I put into these videos and into fixing this spreadsheet, so it is for patron folks. Thank you to everybody who makes my Patreon possible. Greatly appreciate it. Come on to my Discord and tell me what you think of the tool. If there are things you'd like to see added and it's something that I legally can add, I absolutely will. So I love that kind of feedback. And yeah, thank you for supporting my work. I appreciate it.